Hello, I'm Mally Shansfeld, Managing Editor of Orthodontic Practice US, a MedMark publication. Welcome to a continuing education presentation and question and answer with Dr. Dan Bills. In our webinar today, we will be discussing how to utilize virtual visits to deliver quality orthodontic care in an effective, efficient, and convenient manner. Before we get started, I'd like to invite viewers to use the chat box on the right side of your screen to ask any questions, and your questions will be answered at the end of the session. Also associated with this presentation is a free CE quiz. Within 30 minutes after the end of the webinar, we will email all attendees the presentation replay, along with the instructions on how to access the CE quiz. Now, I'm pleased to introduce our guest for today. Dr. Dan Bills received his Bachelor of Arts degree in biology from Lafayette College and his dental degree from Harvard University, both with honors, after which he completed a 3-year orthodontic residency at the University of Illinois. He's a board-certified diplomate of the American Board of Orthodontics and a fellow of the American College of Dentists. Dr. Bills maintains a state-of-the-art private practice, Innovative Orthodontics, with 3 locations in southern New Jersey, just outside of Philadelphia. He's been honored as Teacher of the Year by University of Pennsylvania Department of Orthodontics and the Department of Dentistry at Virtua Hospital. He lectures regularly at academic institutions and orthodontic meetings, both in the United States and abroad, and gives in-house courses about a variety of clinical topics, as well as how to better utilize technology in the orthodontic office. Dr. Bills, we turn the webinar over to you to learn more about your topic for today.
All right, Mally, thank you very much. It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me, and I'm really looking forward to having a good time with everybody today. As Mally mentioned, the topic for today is virtual our new reality? Efficient and effective virtual visits in the orthodontic office. So a topic I think is very timely to the world today. Mally gave a great introduction, so I don't need to go into too much here. I wanted to give everybody my email address. If you do have any questions that you want to follow up on, please don't hesitate to reach out. And as Mally mentioned, went to dental school at Harvard, went to Illinois for orthodontics, and I'm a diplomat of the American Board of Ortho. This is why I do what I do. This is my wonderful family. My wife, Emily, is a pediatric dentist, and my daughter, Caroline, is 8 years old and is just the love of our lives. This is family number 2, my wonderful team at Innovative Orthodontics. And as Mally mentioned, we've got 3 locations in the suburbs of Philadelphia on the New Jersey side of the river. We opened our first location in October of 2008, which if anybody remembers, we opened in September of 2008. Everybody remembers what happened in October of 2008 when the entire world economy collapsed. So it was an interesting time to do a startup practice, but it really forced me to get efficient and effective and really pay attention to new technology like what we're going to talk about today. So it's been an exciting almost 15-year ride, and I look forward to many years to come. This is one of our offices. So state-of-the-art technology is a big part of everything that we do, including the look and feel of our office environment. And also, as Mally mentioned, I am proudly on faculty at the Department of Orthodontics at the University of Pennsylvania. Quick disclosure that I have no financial arrangement or affiliation with any corporate organization that we're going to talk about today. Weave was kind enough to sponsor the webinar today, but other than that, I've got no financial interests, so no inherent biases in anything that I'm going to talk about. When I break up this lecture talking about virtual visits, we're going to break it into 3 parts, and the first is, life is good. This is what I'm going to refer to as a pre-pandemic mindset. Second is what we all just lived through, and I don't mean to talk about it in the past tense, but I'm hoping that we can continue to talk about it in the past tense. But the pandemic definitely changed our thinking on all things, but certainly my thinking on orthodontics in the virtual world. And then finally, we'll close with a very optimistic message about what the pandemic taught me about virtual visits, our virtual treatment platform, patient perceptions, and a lot of different things that have really taught me a lot and kind of are guiding all the decisions that we make moving forward, especially in the context of our virtual treatment platform. So we're going to start with this pre-pandemic mindset. And in my mind, my goal was to use virtual consults as a tool to provide patients with the options that they were requesting. Essentially a marketing tool, a lead generator, a way to grab people who may be searching online for orthodontic solutions through searches that might have led them to a direct-to-consumer solution. We were really looking at virtual as a way to grab these patients ahead of time. And when I think about this, most people ask the question, why you, right? Why should a patient choose us for orthodontic treatment, right? I think about that question a little bit differently, and I learned a lot with the direct-to-consumer revolution that seems to be slowing down a bit, which I'm sure none of us are all that unhappy about. But why would someone choose an at-home solution? And I asked myself that question quite a bit, probably for the last 5 years or so. And it's very convenient and very easy. And the approach that I used to always take was it must just be about money, right? The only reason somebody would do this is to save money. But I know that I'm not the only orthodontist out there that had a patient in the chair, say a teenager, maybe even in clear aligners or in braces, and you look up and you see that mom's got clear aligners on, and they're not yours, then you find out that they may have chosen a direct-to-consumer option. And it really made me think, these are people that I knew could have afforded our services, but they chose them for different reasons. And I started to really pay attention to that. And it really led me to some pretty fundamental conclusions. And the first, as somebody that prides themselves on embracing cutting-edge technology, is the technology has completely changed patient expectations. There's no doubt about that. Patients today value convenience more than they ever have in human history. And in fact, convenience is the commodity that matters most to this current generation of orthodontic patients. They also value personalization, which increases patient convenience and buying motives. And you don't have to look any further than what somebody my age, in my mid 40s, would have had in their pocket, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And it's startling to think about the number of things that we would have had to carry around to get some of the basic conveniences that we take for granted today, simply by carrying around a smartphone, right? And if that doesn't change the way we think, it really should. So you think about other areas of our lives, and this picture was pre-pandemic, and this picture stresses me out. I don't love shopping malls. I didn't love them pre-pandemic, and obviously during the pandemic and even post-pandemic, retail is really suffering. Why? Because of the ability to shop online, right? Going to the grocery store, I don't know if I should be embarrassed or proud to admit that I don't think I've stepped foot inside a grocery store that wasn't just to get fresh meat and vegetables, probably in 4 or 5 years, because of companies like Instacart. Okay, so that fuels the way we think. Going to the movies, waiting outside to see the hottest new release. Now we obviously are all streaming. And not only are we streaming movies that maybe came out a couple months ago, we're now streaming movies the same day that those movies come out in the theater. Looking at waiting for a cab. I know I certainly don't miss these days, even on a sunny day, much less on a rainy one, because we've got companies like Uber and Lyft to take care of that in a technology-based solution. Waiting for restaurants. Now we can get food delivered to our door from just about anywhere. Even going to the gym. I mean, the pandemic definitely taught us that there are some pretty cool technologies that can help us work out in the comfort of our own homes without leaving. So as I think about those buying motivations, it really made me look at virtual consults. Now, these are virtual new patient exams only pre-pandemic, as a tool to provide patients with convenient, personal, and tech-based options that, whether we like to believe it or not, they are requesting, and probably in today's world, they are almost demanding that we're able to provide. So I wanted to get some fundamental questions. I lecture about this topic a lot, and I kind of know the fundamental questions and some of the dirty words that are out there, and I wanted to kind of nip those in the bud. And the first one that I get all the time is, are virtual consults direct to consumer or do it yourself? And again, I can only speak for the way that I do them, and the way that I'm going to show you that I use them. But for me, absolutely not. They're just a tool They're a tool for quality offices, not a direct-to-consumer solution, and they're really intended to provide accessibility and convenience in the same way that direct-to-consumer solutions offer, but in a way to not have to sacrifice quality and patient experience because we're real orthodontists that are providing the treatment. The second question I get all the time, and this one's really important, is are we treating patients without a comprehensive examination? And again, I can only speak for how we do it, but again, the answer is absolutely not. We are only providing basic information based on images that are submitted to us, and clearly a full evaluation requires a secondary visit with an exam, necessary radiographs and photos, and I'll show you how we incorporate that. However, what I've learned is a full evaluation. People assume that somebody's going to do a virtual consult because they expect a full eval, when in fact, what they really might want to find out before they get in the car, drive to our office, fill out our paperwork, go through an hour-long consultation, get all these additional records taken. Sometimes people might just want to know an answer to a very simple question. Am I a candidate for orthodontics? Am I a candidate for clear braces? Am I a candidate for clear aligners? And they want to know that before they take the time out of their busy schedules to come in and see us in the office. So as we dive into kind of our virtual treatment platform, I developed what I call our virtual visit toolbox, the tools we need to make this successful. And the first one is two-way text messaging, which I think is vital for this. Lots of benefits, both in and out of the virtual world. It's a great way to keep phone lines free. And I used to look at text messaging as, like I do in my personal life, like it's something I spend way too much time doing, or it's a time suck. Not in the orthodontic office. And this is backed up with data that this can actually keep phone lines free and can save 2 to 6 minutes per phone call. So if you think about a simple conversation where a patient calls your office and you give them those wonderful scripts that we train all of our scheduling coordinators to do. Thank you for calling Innovative Orthodontics. This is Deanna speaking. How can I help you? Oh, hi, Deanna. This is Mrs. Jones. How are you today? Oh, I'm great, Deanna. Thanks for asking. Awesome. How's Johnny doing? Great. How's school going? Lovely weather we're having. Whatever it is that we do from a small talk perspective. Next thing you know, your scheduling coordinators have been on the phone for 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes. And really, all that Mrs. Jones wanted to do was find out what time Johnny's appointment was, or possibly reschedule. So text messaging is a great way in today's world to save time. Whether you want to believe it or not, these are now real conversations. They're not impersonal. If done correctly, they build relationships. It's a flexible way to set up appointments and obviously to do appointment reminders. And it's a really effective way to fill open appointment slots in real time. So for example, if a patient reschedules a bonding appointment, it's 10 o'clock in the morning, you might not be able to get a patient on the phone to fill that slot. However, you probably could get them through text messaging, which they're able to check at pretty much all points throughout the day in today's world. So we found that highly effective. And then in the context of today's discussion, it's an essential tool for virtual visits. Your patients that want to communicate with you online certainly are not going to want to pick up a phone and have an actual conversation with you in most cases. So let's take a look at that. Our patients, so say somebody reaches out to us for a virtual consult, we're able to send them a text message first to fill out all of their new patient paperwork. And then we're also able to send them a welcome message where they can learn a little bit more about who we are. So we'll look at the new patient forms first. Patient gets a text message, brings them to our website, which I love. I know there are a lot of third parties out there, even practice management softwares that allow you to text people paperwork. We developed a system where using Google Forms, where it brings them to our website, so to iortho.com. They can then click on new patient form and fill out all of that information online. The nice thing about that bringing them to our website is it increases our organic SEO, which is huge. We make those forms really easy to fill out. I tell people all the time, if you have a new patient intake form that has 500 questions, you're going to make people mad, even if it was on paper. But if you're asking them to do that on, say, a fillable PDF or something like that, they're going to get really frustrated if they have to keep blowing up fields in order to be able to fill them out. So we have 10 pages, 1 or 2 questions per page, really easy to fill out, really optimized for mobile. But then when the patient submits it, we get back a really nicely formatted new patient intake form through HIPAA compliant email that we can then immediately upload into our practice management software. So that was all set up through Google Forms. Any IT person would be able to do that for you at your web company. You could probably even hire a high school kid who's good with this stuff to be able to program this for you. It's pretty simple. The second, and I always tell people that I believe in standing on the shoulders of giants in the orthodontic profession. And anyone that's seen me lecture knows I'm always giving people credit for the things I've learned from them and that have modified to fit into our systems. This is one that I'm pretty confident I'm the first person to ever do. And that is, many years ago, we recorded just a 1-minute welcome message about who we are. As you can see here, a personal message from Dr. Bills. Welcome to Innovative Orthodontics. And we've always texted that, when we still do, even to our traditional new patients, which is an incredibly powerful marketing tool. However, for our virtual patients, it is incredible the impact that it has, because quite frankly, this may be their only time to see me, to see our office, to see our team, to see our smiling patients. So this almost takes the place of a tour in the virtual world as well. So I'm going to show you that video that the patient gets. And again, brings them to our website. So brings them to iortho.com. They click on that link, optimized for mobile. This is what they get. We understand that you have a lot of options when it comes to choosing an orthodontist for you or your child, and we're honored that you're spending your time with us in the office. On behalf of myself and the team at Innovative Orthodontics, I look forward to giving you more reasons to smile for years to come. We take a lot of pride in what we do here, and we know that we treat every patient that walks through our doors as if they're family. And we look forward to passing along that same level of customer service to you. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me or any of my dedicated team members with any questions or concerns that you have. We're all in this together. We understand that orthodontics is something that our patients want to invest in themselves or invest in their children. We want to make sure that we honor your decision to come here with a level of customer service that you've never experienced before and treat you the way that you deserve to be treated. And I look forward to exceeding your expectations and helping you achieve your goals. So short, sweet, I say no more than a minute with this, but an absolutely incredible way to make an impact on either that traditional immigration protocol or in the context of this lecture in the virtual world for that patient that's running a consult. We also educate through text and blog posts, and in the virtual world, that's incredibly important, because this is an opportunity to be able to educate patients about things that are important to us. So we have blog posts that are written on a variety of patient education topics. This one happens to be why it's important to get an orthodontic screening by age 7. And then again, brings the patient back to iortho.com, and they can learn all about things that are important from an educational perspective. So love texting for education as well. Something that I was so happy we had in place when the pandemic hit, and this is through Weave. I should have said that before. Our two-way texting is through Weave also, but our text-to-pay solution also through Weave. So we no longer send out paper statements. What we're able to do is simply text a link like what you see here. Hi, this is Innovative Orthodontics. You have a balance due. Please use the secure link to pay. They click on that and they're able to pay us in minutes. So great way to collect money in the virtual world. Highly recommended. Next up in the virtual visit toolbox are Voiceover IP phones. We utilize these through Weave also. It's absolutely phenomenal way to have our phones connected to our computer, connected to our practice management software, connected to our personal cell phones. So we're able to text patients. We're able to have a call pop where when a patient calls in, we're able to see immediately who that patient is and really provide a much more personalized service. We're able to see our schedule from our smartphone. We're able to call patients from our cell phone as if it's coming from the office line. So it shows up on the patient's caller ID as coming from the office, which is phenomenal, especially in the virtual world where you might be at home. So you've essentially got an extension of your office line on your cell phone, which is just fantastic. And this is showing the integration with the practice management software. Again, gone are the days of how do you spell your last name, right? All the cool things we've scripted our scheduling coordinators to do to be able to get a patient to tell us who they are without making it clear that we might not know who they are. Now we know exactly who it is, and we can simply greet them by first name and, how's Caroline doing if that's the patient's name. So that's been phenomenal in our virtual treatment platform. The next one is teleconferencing and screen sharing technologies. And this makes me really laugh because we've been doing this for years. And I actually used to have to teach people how to use screen sharing technology. This is 6-7 years ago, and now everybody on the planet knows how to use a technology like Zoom, which is actually how we're doing this today. So we use screen sharing for treatment conference for a parent not present at the initial consult. So we do all one-step consultations in our office. So if dad is at the appointment, mom is at work, we can say to mom, if you'd like, we could do a secondary consultation via screen sharing. We use it for a second treatment conference with a parent or an adult patient. So an adult patient that wants to, for example, see a digitally guided bonding setup or a clear aligner setup, we can offer to show them that via screen sharing. So we really try at all costs not to do any second consults in the office to clog up our schedule. We use it all the time for case discussions with referring doctors. So we can have doctors that refer us over a case, especially multidisciplinary cases. We can review things with them by screen sharing instead of having to leave the office, which is great. And then in the virtual world, this is a phenomenal way if we need to be able to review records live with patients. And certainly if we're doing synchronous new patient consults, which I'll touch on briefly in a moment, you're going to need some sort of screen sharing technology. Lots of different companies out there. And I'm sure at this point, everybody's very much aware of who those are. Lots of great choices. However, and for me, I pride myself on looking for pain points, looking for things in my life that are maybe slightly less efficient than I want them to be, and trying to find solutions for that. So teleconferencing or screen sharing still requires schedule coordination and phone tag. Which is something that I try to avoid at all costs. I don't like bottlenecks in my schedule, and quite frankly, I don't like bottlenecks in my life. So many years ago, we started using screen recording software. So essentially, and now we all know the terms synchronous and asynchronous, right? Synchronous, we're doing it live. Asynchronous, I'm doing it at a time that makes sense for me, and I'm sending it to the patient. This is essentially asynchronous screen sharing. So we use a great company called Soapbox. There are others out there, Camtasia and Loom are the others. I personally love Soapbox because it is a Google Chrome plugin. So if you're a Google Chrome user, all you have to do is click on the little icon, and it immediately starts recording your screen, starts recording your face and your voice, and then you can very easily edit it to produce something like what I'm about to show you. And this would be, as an example, a patient that wanted to see a 3D setup of a couple different options before they made a decision on which option they wanted to choose. Hi, it's Dan Bills. I just wanted to give you a call as we discussed and run through the two different scenarios about how we could handle that spacing between the front teeth. So I'm going to show you two different outcome simulations. The first one, and obviously what I'll run through first while we're doing this is all the great changes that we're seeing. So for the sake of time, you'll see as you guys kind of get the point there. I'm able to quickly record myself, quickly record my screen with me reviewing a case, whether it's a ClinCheck, whether it's the patient's photos, whether it's some sort of digitally guided bonding setup. I'm able to do that in real time, and that does not take me any longer to do than it takes me to actually talk. So the time savings there over live or synchronous teleconferencing or over a game of phone tag is phenomenal. and I highly, highly, highly recommend you looking into that, even just to be able to communicate with your referring docs. So I very rarely call referring doctors about a case anymore. So that's been phenomenal for us, and certainly essential if you're practicing in the virtual world. Additional tools for synchronous virtual visits. So like we talked about, I don't do any synchronous virtual visits in my office. There are some amazing docs that do, and I wanted to share with you what other tools you might want to think of for that. Also, I put in here, Dr. Kyle Fagala gave me permission to share this. This is a great script and kind of a playbook on how to do virtual consults in a synchronous format. And in order to do so, you might want to invest in a little better webcam, a little better microphone, a ring flash, possibly even a headset, if you want to do that live. For me, my goal is to try to be as efficient as possible with my time. And I don't therefore do any synchronous consults in the office, but got many colleagues that do, and something that you could look into. As far as what I use in our asynchronous process, you need a user-friendly app to be able to effectively pull this off. We use a great one from a company called Clear Partnering Group. SmileSnap is another that people use. There's lots of great solutions out there, but I think there's some important considerations that you need to think about. The first is the quality, appearance, and ease of use is incredibly important if you're going to gain trust. Some of you may have seen me lecture on experiential branding in orthodontics, and it's something I'll be lecturing on at the AAO in Chicago. I'm really excited for that, but this is your brand. How this app looks is a direct reflection on who you are in the eyes of the patient. So please choose a quality partner if you're gonna do asynchronous virtual visits. People don't want to feel like they're sending their information through an insecure portal or a third party. These are pictures of either their teeth or, more sensitively, their child's teeth. They definitely want to feel like they're using a secure portal and not just texting these to a cell phone number, in my opinion, or I've even seen people do it through Facebook Messenger. I just think this works a little bit better and makes the patient feel a little more secure. In my opinion, I know HIPAA was very lax during the prime portion of the pandemic. I would imagine at some point we want to get back to being as HIPAA compliant as possible. So that's important to me. And we also want it to feel like it's part of my practice, that it's on brand and representative of my office and my culture. And we want to make sure that there's easy to use custom response templates for the doctor or the team member that is reviewing this information, so that you can, in real time, make a very quick report, send back to the patient without having to sit down and type out some long response or make a follow-up phone call, or do some sort of follow-up screen share. So I'm going to show you how the app works on the doctor side as well. So step one, and again, this is for our virtual new patient exams. This is what we were doing pre-pandemic, and this is what we're still doing today for a new patient. So we've got widgets embedded onto our website. So onto iortho.com. Let's get started. We'll send a link to your phone. Patient puts in their phone number, and then they hit send, and they then get from us a link, a secure link on their own cell phone, with the ability to click on it and start their virtual consult. So again, this is the app from Clear Partnering Group. They fill out some basic information. Is this for you or for your child? Why are you interested in orthodontics? Give me some basic information about your teeth. Are you interested in clear aligners, metal braces, clear braces, all of the above? And give us a little information on why you're interested in orthodontics. My teeth are jacked up, please help, right? And this is where it really gets fun. The cameras on smartphones today are incredibly powerful. So right on the smartphone, through the app, the patient can take pictures that are of incredible quality. So again, not the quality that we would take in our own office with our own good cameras or our own trained technicians and clinicians taking them, but you can still get some really good photos And those are the basic views that we want to see. Patient then submits them to us, and we get them sent directly to us. So then the third step. So this is the back end of the app from Clear Partnering Group, where we get a notification that we have a virtual exam to review. And you can see the photos are not orthodontic quality, but they certainly are quality enough for me to answer basic questions. And what you're looking at here is what we've built out on the back end. Very easy. Simply click, is this crowding? Is it spacing? Is there an overbite, an underbite? Are you a candidate for orthodontics? Are you a candidate for clear aligners? Are you a candidate for clear braces, metal braces? And then really some basic information about financing in our office. And remember, this is still primarily as a marketing tool. I see a lot online about, whether or not these are effective or not. I think a lot of that depends on what your goal is. So for us, that is primarily a marketing tool and a lead capture for us, but very easy to do. And that video you just saw was me doing that in real time. That is all the time that it takes. Step 4, the patient gets a report from us. And again, it's important that this is their first real interaction with our office. This report needs to look professional. It needs to be on brand. It needs to have our color scheme, our fonts, and needs to look like they didn't just, it wasn't just filled out by a bot, right? So what they get is a report back from us, all that text that you saw us generate on the back end, and some basic information on how do I get started. And this scripting is very important. And we wordsmithed it because we didn't want to feel like we were wasting the patient's time. And this is one of my millennial TCs said to me, look, if you make me go through this and take all these pictures on my phone and send it to me and then simply bring me back into the office and treat me just like you would a traditional new patient without telling me why, I'm going to feel like I just got scammed and that I wasted my time. So we came up with some pretty cool verbiage with the how do I get started? That is, congrats on your successful first step on your journey to a beautiful, confident smile. The next step will be to visit us in the office for some additional orthodontic records that could not be done at home, including digital x-rays and digital tooth impressions that will be done at no charge and under no obligation. In addition, we will discuss more detailed treatment recommendation and options best suited for you. We can't wait to meet you in person. So the nuance there is that there are additional records that could not be done at home, which is why we have to bring you in. So it's not a bait and switch, at least in the patient's mind. They feel like we're not wasting their time, which is 100% true. It also gives us an opportunity to talk about financing. Remember, we talked before, why are patients doing this? They may just want to find out, am I a candidate for braces? Am I a candidate for clear aligners? Which we can tell them that basic information almost without exception. And the second thing we found out as we've done more of this is patients just might want to know, can they afford it? So this is a great opportunity. We don't quote fees because we honestly don't know what it's going to cost, but we can say that the cost of braces or clear aligners can range anywhere from $2,000 to $6,000, whatever your fee scale is, all depending on the complexity of the required treatment. Regardless of the price, we will set up an affordable, no-interest payment plan that works with any budget. In most cases, we can get monthly payments between $150 and $200 a month. So patients have learned already, before they've even come in to see us, that we're going to make this affordable for them. So a lot of power in that, in my opinion. Step 5, we reach out to the patient. We have a virtual treatment coordinator that I'll talk about in a little bit, that then responds to the patient in the way that they chose to be responded to. Do they want to call? Do they want to follow up text? We respond to them and we give them appointment options to come in for that second portion of the consult. Step 6 is that consult part 2. In our office, that is a TC only 30-minute consult. Our normal consult is 60 minutes. These consults are only 30. A lot of consultants have been advocating for years for TC-only consults, which I know bother a lot of doctors, that we think that we're very important on this journey and that everybody wants to meet us. Maybe some patients don't. Maybe a good screening tool, the way I look at it, is a patient that wants to sit in their house and take pictures on their smartphone and submit them to our office may not need to see the doctor to gather some more information. So we set this up as a TC only consult, gather some additional records, take an x-ray, take our own photos. We tell the patient that their photos were awesome, even if they're not, but that we wanted to gather some that we can put directly into our practice management software. That's how we word that. And then the doctor is able to review it, in my case, on a perch, or in some cases in a doctor's office. We can review those with the TC briefly, and then the TC can go in and present the diagnostic information and talk to patients about next steps. So I hear all the time, only millennials and tire kickers will utilize virtual orthodontic visits. And I read it all the time in our own Facebook groups. And you might be right, but there's data to support otherwise. So some statistics, and again, these are just from our office, is that a large percentage of people who have submitted a virtual consult have viewed the report and have therefore gotten exposed to our practice, our doctors, our branding. They've watched our video, they've seen what we're all about, and the touch point. Okay, maybe they don't start treatment immediately, but maybe that's part of our marketing efforts. We've also found that 60% of people who have taken the virtual consult and submitted it have come into the office for the second stage of the consult. So we lose 40% right off the top. For me, I'm okay with that. That report did not take me very long to do. And I'm okay with the fact that we might lose a relatively large percentage of patients on the front end. But what I found fascinating is that our conversion rate for patients who come in for the second stage, so out of that 60% that come in, our conversion rate is 76% that start treatment. So, that's pretty comparable to our traditional patients. And that's something that, is worth it to me to continue to do. We don't do a ton of these. And I see people, I do 1 or 2 of these a month. I read all the time online. Personally, if it's 1 or 2 a month, that might be 1 or 2 patients that you might have lost otherwise. So I still see value in that because it doesn't cost much or take a lot of time. In our office, because we've promoted this pretty well, we're averaging somewhere between 21 and 25 a month at this point. So nothing that's taken up that much time. However, something that I think is very valuable, and that those are patients I might not have gotten otherwise. So to kind of sum up my pre-pandemic mindset, these do not replace the doctor in any way. They simply make it easier for some patients to get the information they want in a way that is easy and effective and efficient for us, the doctors, to provide. All right, so now let's look at what we learned during the pandemic. And I'm glad we're past this, but I'm the kind of person that believes that everything is a learning opportunity. So obviously, like many of you, we relied on virtual visits. I'm glad we had our system already up and running. I know a lot of people purchased systems to help them during this time to ensure that we were managing treatment during times of mandatory closure. And we were doing, obviously, new patient exams. We were doing OBS visits. We were doing basic appliance checks. We tried, in our case, unsuccessfully, to do some braces adjustments. Clear aligner adjustments were a little more effective if we didn't have IPR that was needed. And retainer checks, we did pretty well with this during that time. So now, again, these are now virtual, we call virtual visits or virtual checkups. So these are different than the new patient exam, but currently we're using the same software from Clear Partnering Group. So in this case, rather than the patient being the one that starts the process through a widget on our website, in this case, our clinical team member sends it to the patient. So they can go in through the back-end portal. They can type in the patient's name, put in their email, type in their phone number, and we obviously show them the 6 photos that we want. The 6th one being, if it's a clear aligner or a retainer patient, we want to prompt them to take a picture with their aligners or their retainers in place. So if we wanted to, through auto text, we can ask them to be sure to take a picture with your aligners in as instructed. And then we're able to send that directly to the patient. So what the patient gets is a really cool looking branded, again, on brand, everything's on brand, link from us that they can start their virtual checkup. So they can put in their patient information. They have an opportunity to write if they have any questions, any issues. Most people just say everything's going great, or hey, my lower right canine's not coming in. My son's lower right canine's not coming in. Can you help with that? Or my upper aligner is not tracking. Can you give me some advice there? And then we give them some photo instructions. So they can then go to their smartphone exactly the same way that we talked about before and can take the pictures directly on their phone. And then in the case of aligner patients and retainer patients, we've got that 6 photo like we talked about, where they can take a picture with their aligners in so we can check tracking. Sends it via HIPAA compliant portal, and then we get all that information from them. And we can review it in the same way that we showed you before, like we did for the new patient exam, but now we've got patients in active treatment. So we can utilize our treatment cards in our practice management software. We can go back. We take pictures every visit, which I highly recommend, and that allows us to be able to compare the images that the patient sends to the images that we took at the patient's last in-office visit. And we can get good enough photos when needed to kind of get a feel for what's going on. And again, this was during COVID. I would much rather have seen this patient in the office, but it was a great way to be able to manage care. And we worked up a bunch of templates on the back end to allow us to very easily click through and develop a really nice branded report for the patient in a way that really didn't take any more time than it's taking you to watch this video. So we make sure I'm very much a control freak. I wanted to make sure everything was spaced properly. I also try to take the opportunity to make it a little more personal. So your bite is looking much improved. Nice work. If we had concerns about hygiene, maybe I'm going to make a note about that so they know. If I know the name of their sibling, I might write, hey, please tell your little brother Johnny we said hi and we can't wait to see him in the office for his observation visit, or something that shows them, again, that this is not a bot that is doing this. And then they get sent a really nice progress report directly from us. These are the customizable templates that I put in just so you can see them. Essentially takes some time to set up on the back end, but is a really nice way to make this system hum and make it as efficient and as effective as possible. So for every item that you saw us click, whether it's crowding, spacing, whether they need to work harder on their hygiene or wearing their rubber bands, we've got all that templated out. So it takes a little time like any other digital system, but once it's done, it really is set it and forget it. I find it's very important, and a lot of people miss this. If you're doing this for actual visits and you are viewing this as an extension of your in-office treatment options, you got to make treatment card entries, right? Or else it never happened in the eyes of the law. So we go in and in our practice management software, we've come up with treatment plans that work in the virtual world as well, and drop down menus. So this is for a virtual retainer check. Patient and responsible parties submitted photos through the virtual consult app. Patient reported no complications. Teeth look great. Retainers appear to be fitting well on photos. Instructed patient to continue wearing retainers, and so on and so forth. So you got to have an entry in your practice management software if you're going down this road, in my opinion. Then there was follow-up by a clinical team member. So a clinical team member calls the responsible party, reviews the report, and answers any questions. Next appointment set up, either in the office or in the virtual world. And if we needed to send them any items, if they needed, next sets of aligners, elastics, wax, any cleaning aids, we would send those out to them during COVID when they couldn't get into the office. We've got an optional last step, and that is why I was so happy that I understood, especially during COVID, screen recording software. So this is a screen recording that I did for a parent who had a question about the progress of their child's treatment.
Hey, Rob, Dan Bills here. Got your virtual consult that you sent in. Thanks for sending in those photos. Everything looks great. Ryan's really progressing well. Very, very, very proud of her. And I know you had some questions about her progress and her hygiene. So I
great
just
way
wanted to
for us
review
to
that
be
with
able
you.
to show parents and what's going on with their kids' teeth in the virtual world and be able to answer it while at the same time avoiding games of phone tag. So now, like anything in the world, and there are a lot of people that set up really cool systems during COVID. And now that we're out of it, they just said, great, I never have to do this again. And I know that there's some orthodontists that just think, virtual visits don't add value to their practice. At least virtual consults do not, because they're not getting a lot of leads that way. We still are, but I think you reap what you sow in this world, and it's something we believe in. So we're going to continue to do it. But for me, I try to find a silver lining in everything. So I looked at, wait a minute, what things did we learn during COVID that we can now apply in an almost post-COVID world to make our lives better and more importantly, our patients' lives better, and provide them with the solutions that they're looking for. So for the duration, let's chat about that. So what did COVID-19 teach me about virtual visits? It obviously was great to manage patient care in a time of crisis. Let's hope that in our lifetime and in our children's lifetime and their children's lifetime, that never happens again, or nothing like it ever happens again. But God forbid if it does, I sleep well knowing that I keep developing robust systems to help me manage it. But I hope that you guys are asking your patients questions. Be curious. We tell all our team members, be curious about everything in your patients' lives and in their parents' lives and what they're thinking. So we've asked people, what they thought of our virtual treatment COVID protocols, and we found that many patients actually appreciated the convenience, and a lot of them commented that we should do this routinely. I know we love thinking that patients like to come see us, but quite frankly, I think many of them would rather do this in a more convenient way if possible. We also developed some really solid systems that made asynchronous virtual visits relatively efficient. And like anything else in life, the more we did, the better we got, and the faster we got, and the more efficient we got. And the more patient buy-in we got. When we first did this, there was a little bit of pushback. Patients, talk about serendipity at a time when we were sort of monkeying around in the virtual world. Patients weren't ready for it. And now everybody is offering telemedicine, telehealth. It really is something that people are doing in other aspects of their lives and even in other aspects of healthcare. So the buy-in from patients, I think, is there if it's something that we choose to embrace. And in many cases, not all, the quality of care was not affected in the least. It was not just a Band-Aid, as I originally anticipated. And we found that there's ample opportunity to use virtual visits to improve convenience and decrease the number of necessary office visits. Some of you have seen me lecture on efficiency. It is a huge passion of mine, and virtual has completely changed the efficiency that we have in our practice and made it so much better. It's a great tool to improve bottlenecks and inefficiencies while at the same time improving the patient experience. So this year in 2022, what appointments are we currently doing virtually? We are still doing virtual consults. We still look at that primarily as a marketing tool, again, a way to attract patients that might otherwise choose another at-home or direct-to-consumer solution. However, we have found that there are patients that simply cannot commit to coming in during our regular business hours. You all have those adult patients that want to come in at 9 o'clock at night because they have the most important job on the planet, or the kids that they want to get in tomorrow because their dentist said they have to get in, but Johnny can't possibly miss school. We obviously try to get patients in for an in-office consult when possible. However, if we run into those patients that's just not working, we say to them, you know what, Mrs. Smith, your schedule is obviously incredibly busy. I think our virtual consult would be a tremendous, tremendous opportunity for you to get this consult done in a timely fashion in a way that's more convenient for you. And is that something you'd be interested in? And we have found that that's been a way to appease patients that need to get in immediately. We do every other observation visit this way. So we like to see patients every 6 months. I'm married to a pediatric dentist, so we have a really robust observation program, and keeping that touch point every 6 months kind of jammed up our schedule. Now we do every other observation visit virtually. We do every single retainer check virtually. I mean, talk about freeing up capacity in a schedule. Every single retainer check is done virtually unless the patient has an issue and they need to come see us, unless we're waiting on late developing second molars, for example. Those we will still bring in the office, but probably 99.9% of retainer checks are now done virtually. Aligner checks for patients away at school. A lot of college kids in clear aligners, a lot of military patients in the area of the country where I live. So if they're overseas, for example, we can give them enough aligners to get them through. We can check in with them virtually. So looking at virtual retainer checks, in case people think, this can't work, what do we really want to see? Are the teeth still straight? And does the retainer still fit? And I can easily see that in those 6 photos. And then we can write them a really nice report, so they don't feel like, we're not there for them. And we also let them know in that report that we're happy to see them in the office if they want. That is important. We always let them know that we can see them if they want. Virtual observation visits, same thing. We've got records, we've got full photos and a pan that were taken 6 months ago before we do this. Really, we just want to make sure that everything's on track, that nothing is looking like it's getting really wonky, and more importantly, that we want to be able to answer any questions that patients have. So this is a patient that is concerned about a primary canine. So that allows us to view where that tooth is, and then we can include that in the personalized report that we send to the patient. So we make sure their questions answered. And then again, we give them the opportunity to reach out to us if they have any additional questions. And very rarely do patients have those. So let's look at some numbers. And many of you know, I am obsessed with efficiency. So let's look at, say we've got 1,500 patients currently in observation. Performing one of their 2 observation visits virtually equals 1,500 appointments saved every single year. Okay, that's huge. Let's say we're debonding on average, our office debonds about 1,200 patients every year. Perform virtual retainer checks. And we only used to do 1 retainer check. I know people that are still doing 2, 3, 4 retainer checks. That's a conversation for another day. But if you're doing that, you could save even more. But for us, 1,200 debonds a year would equal 1,200 retainer checks. We're performing these virtually now. We're saving 1,200 appointments every single year. So put those together. That's just obs and retainers. We're saving 2,700 appointments every single year. Okay, and if you want to do the math, 2,700 appointments divided by, we see on average 65 patients a day, we're saving 41 days of work per year. If we got 41 days divided by 12 months, that's over 3 days every single month that we can save appointment-wise. And to me, that's time that I could spend with my wife, with my daughter, on the golf course, whatever it is that our hobbies are. That's amazing. And if time isn't your thing and money is your thing, the average chair time, according to most major consultants, the value of that chair time is about $425 an hour. So if we break that down, it's $7.08 per minute. So we're saving, if you're each 20-minute appointment that you're saving saves approximately $142. So for us, retainer checks, we're 20 minutes, observation visits, we're 20 minutes. If we're saving 2,700 appointments, like we just talked about, we could save close to $400,000 per year. So if time is your thing, makes sense. If money is your thing, it makes sense. For me, both of them are my thing. So doing as much as we can virtually, as long as we're not sacrificing patient care, I think is incredibly, incredibly powerful. So to finish, what enhancements have I made to my virtual treatment platform and to my team? We've got a virtual office location in our practice management software, and I'll show you that. We've got virtual appointment classes and appointment types. So we want to build this out in our practice management software to make it an efficient and effective system. We've also moved one of our treatment coordinators to a virtual treatment coordinator. So you want somebody trained in managing people and clinical care. So we found a young millennial treatment coordinator that is thriving in this role. We wanted to develop, and we did develop, extensive full team training and scripting. So we got to have all team members on board so they understand this. So this is looking at our practice management software. We utilize Dolphin. You'll notice at the top, we've got our our 3 physical orthodontic locations. We've got our 3 physical pediatric dental locations, but we've also got what we call IO virtual. So we've got a virtual location that has a templated schedule where we can put patients in and track them. And again, it's outside of the scope of this lecture, but being able to track them so you know, did they fill out their virtual treatment through the asynchronous app? Did they perform it? In which case their appointment was kept. If they didn't do it, we can mark their appointment as a no-show. So we don't lose these patients, and then we can simply move them a week ahead is how we do it. If you're interested in seeing that more in action, we do an in-office course in our office where we dive pretty deep into the back end of this. And these are just a sample of scripts that we write up. We want to have a standard operating procedure for everything that we do so every team member can understand this. For our observation program, again, bare bones, we wanted to give people something to make this process easier for them. So we came up with a nice little postcard, and we give them some inexpensive cheek retractors to help them with the photos, and that's been big. So it makes patient lives easier. And then what's amazing is we keep building upon this. So I have been constantly evaluating new and emerging technologies to build upon this. So we are about to onboard with dental monitoring, so we can add artificial intelligence into this, which I think is going to be ridiculously powerful to take this to the next level where we pile artificial intelligence on top. Grin is another amazing company with a really powerful scope hooked up to the patient's smartphone, so you could generate really good images and video, and the back-end communication tools for the patients. You could even do video conferencing through the Grin app, which is a really cool way to really take this to the next level. So I am so excited to see what comes from this in the coming years, both in my practice and in yours, and in just the industry as a whole. So in summary, in my world, virtual orthodontic visits are a way for quality orthodontic offices to provide patients with the convenient tech-based solutions they're requesting, while at the same time increasing our efficiency and productivity, which is, in my opinion, a win-win situation. So thank you guys very much. You have been amazing. We're going to open up the floor to questions. And I did want to give you my email address once again, dan@iortho.com. And then the link to our in-office course, if anybody is interested, is iorthosolutions.com. So at this point, I'll open up the floor to questions.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bills. That presentation was really comprehensive, very, very interesting. There are some questions coming in. But before I get to those, I will again invite viewers to use your chat box on the right side of the screen to ask any questions that you have. First question, Dr. Bills, do you utilize the full virtual consult with video conferencing and a treatment coordinator that you mentioned some offices doing, and if not, why?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, for me, we toyed around. So the way I talked about that was the synchronous consultation, and we toyed around with that, and we have the tech to do it if we wanted to. I've got some great friends that are utilizing it very effectively. For us, it just felt like it was just as time consuming on our end as a traditional consultation, not just for me, but also for the patients. And as I dove a little deeper into all of the great asynchronous platforms, either the app that I showed you or SmileSnap, which is very similar, or what we're now seeing with companies like Dental Monitoring and Grin, the asynchronous option just seemed more an effective use of our time, and it was more convenient for the patient. So we don't currently do any synchronous consults.
Okay. Another question, do you worry that doing virtual visits cheapens the specialty of orthodontics?
That's a great question. So do I worry that it cheapens the specialty? Absolutely not. And again, this is all if it's done correctly. In my opinion, this actually makes us look better. It makes us look like we are paying attention to what patients are asking of us. And we are not kind of pushing patients towards more convenient options. I mean, if one thing I learned, direct-to-consumer options, in my opinion, clinically do not work, and we all know why. And you can look at stock prices and understand why. However, why did so many people go to those options in the first place? And I tend to think that that might have been that we weren't as convenient as we could be. So if we can add in that technology and convenience in a way that is still very much orthodontic and orthodontist centric, I think that's something that actually makes the specialty look better.
Okay, next question. What is the primary reason that you choose to utilize an app for virtual visits as opposed to simply having patients email photos as some are doing?
Yeah, one of the things I'm really passionate about is our brand and brand identity and experiential branding in the profession. And I want everything that comes out of our office to be on brand. And if we're a tech savvy, customer service oriented practice, I need to work with a really good app that kind of shares some of that. And that was my initial motivation. The other is to make the patient comfortable that everything's being done in a secure way and that they're sending us information through a HIPAA compliant secure portal, which I think adds to them feeling good about how much we value their privacy and their information.
Okay, next question. I love the thought of doing the video screen recording that you mentioned. You went through a few different platforms. Which one do you use in your practice and why?
Yeah, there's some great ones out there. I mentioned Camtasia and Loom as some great options. We've always worked with a company called Soapbox, SOAPBOX, from a company called Wistia, WISTIA. I just love their platform, easy to work with. And also I like the fact that it's a Google Chrome plugin. So again, every laptop these days has a built-in webcam and a built-in microphone. Simply clicking a button in Chrome and having it start recording. The ease of use for me was the decision maker.
Okay, next question. Have virtual visits impacted the ability for your team and staff to connect with patients?
Yes, and that's something that I think is really powerful. If you're speaking the language that your patients want to speak, and it's not for everybody. We still have patients, say an observation. I just saw an observation patient yesterday that clearly had missed multiple virtual observation visits, and they're only 9 years old. So they're going to be in our OBS program probably for the next 3 years. I knew that wasn't for them. So we scheduled their next observation visit in the office rather than doing it virtually. So that's the exception to the rule. But for the 95% of patients in our office, we're connecting with them in a way that they want to be connected with and connected to, and we're communicating with them in the language that they want to speak. So I think it's been really powerful for connecting.
Okay, last question that we have time for. How are the best ways to avoid tech glitches when working with patients who aren't as tech savvy?
That's a great question. I think utilizing the simplest format possible. It's one of the reasons why I chose the asynchronous virtual app from Clear Partnering Group, is I think it makes it really foolproof. But there are people that are not a fan of that. And I think the key is being okay with that, right? There are people that are like, I hate my phone. I don't like taking pictures on my phone. I don't feel like using, when we were using spoons, or now even with the retractors, I don't want to use them. And I think it's understanding that option's not the right one for that patient. And then we move back into our traditional, in-office visits for those. So it's just being aware of what patients want.
Okay, well, thank you so much. This was a great presentation. Thank you everyone for your questions, but we've run out of time today. And if we did not get to your question, we will answer it after the webinar via email. In the next 30 minutes, we will send you a link to the replay of this presentation with instructions on how to access the CE quiz. Please be sure to complete the free CE quiz associated with this webinar to receive your continuing education credit. Thank you again for attending, and a special thank you to Dr. Dan Bills and our sponsor for this webinar, Weave. Thank you, and stay safe out there.